G'day everyone, I'm not going to bombard you with my noisy sounding intro, but I'm back here and we're doing a review 2 years later of the Kogan portable reverse cycle air conditioner, the 14,000 BTU unit. This is the very first video. Now, I've had it for around 2 years. The first review I did was back in April, I believe it was, April the 1st, 2017. And yeah, I've had a huge amount of views and also a great amount of comments. Really appreciate it. Love hearing your feedback about the unit, some really good little recommendations, which I'll touch on as well, that some of you have mentioned. And yeah, I just like generally helping anyone out with any information that you might want to know about this unit. Now, this is not a paid review. It's not sponsored or anything like that. I just really like putting out useful content. So anyway, what I'm going to be doing is basically a Q&A. There's a whole bunch of questions in here from a lot of you over the last 2 years, and also in the last few weeks since I put a post in there to see if you would want a review, and you all do. So I'm going to try and address all these questions as much as I can. Essentially, I've given myself this tiny little cheat sheet here to go through and answer all of that. Alrighty, let's go ahead and jump on across and check out the 14,000 BTU Kogan portable air conditioner 2 years later. Now, one thing you might already know straight away is it is in a different room. This is a completely different house. It has been 2 years. I've moved house, and the room I'm in is a lot smaller, and I'll give you a bit of a picture so you can have a look and see. It is a lot smaller, and it has carpet. It is brick on the outside and insulation in the roof, which is awesome. This means that this house anyway is a lot better environmentally with its cooling capacity, heating capacity, all those kind of things. It still does get really hot, which I'll show you why in a second. But in comparison to the old house, which you saw in the video from 2 years ago, we had wooden floors. I think I said that the walls were really thin. The room was a lot bigger. The ceilings might have been a little bit higher. And there was no insulation in the ceiling as well, so that caused it to be really, really hot in that house. So I find that this house is a lot nicer. Down the corridor, I have tiles, which is nice and cool, and I have some reverse cycle air conditioners, wall units as well, which makes the whole house a lot better. So that shouldn't sway the style of this review and what I'm going to talk to you about, but just take those factors into consideration with this review, because I have used it in this house a little bit longer than the other house. Probably about 16 months maybe in this house, and the others were in the other house. So keep that in mind. Carpet does make, of course, things a little bit hotter. I would prefer wood or tile in here. But anyway, it still does work the same. So my very first things are, it's been 2 years. I've moved house. Have I had any issues with this unit? Well, not exactly. None that I can really mention. Like, I haven't had any issues with this thing. It's been great. It's moved houses. It's moved to different rooms. I've plugged into different areas. It runs pretty well 6 hours a day, I would say. Monday to Friday, every single day. And in the summer, and it does a really good job. And I really put it through its paces. In the way of maintenance, I have done absolutely no maintenance to this unit. If you wanted to know the model and everything of this unit, there is all the details for you if you wanted to check it out. You can see here how much air it's supposed to put out, and also the noise. And that comes to, when I mention noise, has this thing increased in any noise over the last few years? Minuscule, like a little bit, like not much at all. And I'd say the main part of the noise is really these swing comes from when these little elements open up, these little plastic pieces. It kind of creaks a little bit, just some expansion, I guess. But generally, I haven't found it noisy or too noisy. Even in a small room, you can kind of get by it if you've got music on and stuff like that. You turn it off when you're on the phone if you don't want people to hear it. But I've been able to be on the phone, even in this small little room, and it hasn't been a problem at all. So, couple of things that people have mentioned in the comments. They wanted to know about noise. They wanted to know about the installation of the exhaust duct, and also the power usage. So I have this little meter here, and I'll touch on that in a very brief second. We'll have a look at the power usage, and we'll jump into my energy provider and just give a rough calculation per hour of the cost, running at the lowest, coldest setting and some different fan speeds. See if that changes anything as well. But yeah, I guess the first thing I want to address is when I was first using this unit, I was running the exhaust straight out through here, and as you can see, I actually have a towel wrapped around at the moment, and there's good reason behind that. And one of the other users mentioned this, that the exhaust itself pumps out a ton of heat, and they are not wrong, it does. And in a smaller room like this, you definitely notice it. If you're in a bigger room, you're probably not going to notice it as much, but I definitely notice it. Now, I've been testing it with just using a towel. It actually insulates it a little bit. Once again, a towel or fabric is definitely not a great insulator. You want to get some foil, some insulation foil, and you will probably want to wrap this and create like a bit of a heat barrier. That way you're not getting this exhaust heat, because this is a very thin little plastic through here, which doesn't give you any heat barrier from all that hot air coming through there. So you can actually find that a lot of your hot air gets trapped, doesn't maybe escape quick enough, and then it dissipates through the tube, and it makes a portion of your room a bit of a hot pocket. And especially when you are considering that the fact that the unit sucks, it draws the air through these side vents down here and around the back as well. So if you don't have adequate ventilation around the unit, and you've got a lot of heat coming from the exhaust tube, you're going to find that you're just basically sucking in hot air all the time, and it's going to run the unit probably not as efficient as it could. So maybe try and insulate that if you can. I'd recommend it. I'm going to take this off up here so you can see. So this is, like I said, why my room gets really hot. There's another building behind me, and at certain parts of the day, the sun hits that building, and because it's a cream style building, it just reflects that heat straight back down, and it pelts it straight onto this brick in here. So this room can get really hot at certain times of the day, and for that reason, what I have done on one corner of my window is put up a insulation panel, just a bit of cardboard with some insulation material on the other side, and that just reflects a little bit of that sun from there. One thing you might want to do if you're not worried about keeping these windows open, which I don't really care about, I prefer to block them out. What you might want to do is do the same to your other window, just kind of insulate a little bit more. That's if you're really going to the end of the world like I am, with making sure it's nice and cool in here. So to get this out of the window, it is really simple. All you got to do is, of course, open your window up enough that you can slide this out, and it literally just pops out like this. That's it. Now, I don't screw mine in. I don't use any plastic or glue or anything like that, because I want to be able to move it around into different rooms, and that's all I do. Now, in the other video, I did mention now and again you might want to put in some little bit of foam and stuff like that just to kind of seal it. I just use a little bit of, I'm pretty agricultural, and I just use a little bit of cardboard just to kind of push it into there and get it right into that gap. But yeah, that's essentially the unit, and it's really easy to undo. Like if you want to unlock it, you just screw that off and unlock it. I noticed that over time this tubing was coming disconnected from this little flange part here, so just had to screw that in to make sure there wasn't any air leaks, because I was getting a little bit of hot air leak coming out of that. So that's one little issue worth noting, but still pretty easy to screw back on. So let's put this back in. I can do it one-handed. Just open up the window, grab that, and poke it into the top, down to the bottom, and that's in. So that's simple. And then just slide your window closed and lock it, or use a bit of dowel, which is what I tend to use, just a bit of dowel to block and push it closed. But yeah, that's it. Okay, so the last part of this video is we're going to be looking at the power usage of the Kogan portable 14,000 BTU air conditioner. So I've already been running the unit for about 2 hours on about 18 degrees in this room on full speed. And I'm just going to turn the aircon back on. I had swing on as well. I'll bump it down to as low as I can, which is 17 degrees. And it's on the cooling setting. As you can see there, the cooling setting. 17 degrees Fahrenheit on high strength. And this was running for the last 2 hours. So within this meter, I've already entered in the pricing. And if we switch to the pricing section, we can see here, this is the power, this is the pricing screen. And we can see total price for the last 2 hours and 25 minutes. It's cost us 52 cents. Now, per kilowatt, it is 25 cents in Queensland per kilowatt, pretty well. So this has been running for about 2 hours and almost 2.5 hours, and we're sitting on the 2.1 kilowatts currently. That's been recorded, so that coincides with the 53 cents pretty well. So if you have a look here as well on the wattage, the condenser has just kicked in and we've bumped our wattage up to a bit over 1,000. And when it doesn't have the condenser going, it is just running at 150 something watts. So bear that in mind with the pricing costs. So if you think about it as pretty well 25 cents, it's pretty much one for one. So for every hour, it's costing you 25 cents per hour. It's really, the unit uses about a kilowatt per hour is what I've kind of roughly calculated. Probably a bit less than that. But you could easily say 25 cents in Queensland is what I'm getting at the moment. 25 cents per hour to run this aircon unit, which is not too bad, to be honest. And you could put that information into a calculator and work it out. And that is on the highest fan setting for the last 2 hours, on cooling on the coldest temperature as well. So essentially you can work it out by running it on the coldest setting. It's going to be working harder, of course, because the condenser has to tick on in more often to regulate the colder temperature, whereas if you were to have it around a room temperature of 23, the condenser probably doesn't have to kick in as much, so it means the fan's going to be used more so, which means less energy. So bear that in mind, as well as if you turn the fan speed down, if you turn swing off, you might drop a little bit in some of those wattage usages as well, which might overall save a few cents on your usage. But to be honest, 25 cents every hour at the highest setting, if you wanted to, at the coldest setting, is not too bad from what I'm seeing. It's actually a little bit less than 25 cents an hour. So there you go. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, recommendations, hated this video, hated the review, I didn't do something right, let me know. If you loved it, let me know. Really want to get any feedback I can to make things better. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to make any other videos for you. You've got questions about what you see in my room, my standing desk, my vibrating sitting platform. You want to know a little bit more about that, let me know. Anything, I'm here for you guys. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed this 2-year review from MyThisThat, signing off.